Okay, let's get this straight right now. Stop calling it a toy. It's not a toy. What's going on, my good folks, and welcome to my review of The Monkey, the latest from director Osgood Perkins, who gave us Longlegs last year, which is another film of his I adore. I've not seen all of his films. I've not seen Gretel and Hansel yet. I know he did one other film before that, but I've not seen Gretel and Hansel yet, but after watching Longlegs and The Monkey, I'm definitely tempted. And speaking of Osgood Perkins, for those of you who don't know, for all you Psycho fans out there, he is the son to Anthony Perkins, Norman Bates himself, for those of you who didn't know. So this was definitely on my roster. If you didn't watch my top 10 most anticipated films of 2025, it is definitely on that list. Plus, this is based off of a short novel from Stephen King, which also got me more excited. So essentially what you have here is two brothers who comes across this supernatural wind-up toy monkey, where every time it bangs its drum, someone dies in the most bizarre way imaginable. Now, going into this, I wasn't quite sure what to expect, but after the impression made on me from Longlegs from Perkins, I had confidence. But was this something I dug? Did this put me exactly where I wanted? Or was this just another big fat letdown? Starting off the positives for The Monkey, I do gotta say, Osgood Perkins does this thing to where he balances things out so well, especially with its eeriness and its atmosphere. Just like with Longlegs, he brings a sense of eeriness and just uncomfortable vibes to where he does these elongated shots out in the wilderness or into a dark place, to where you think something's going to happen but nothing ever does, but it's that weight. It's that anticipation level that really gets to you. That very uneasy path that he seems to know how to do very well. And I thought he did it really, again, very well here. Though not as much as Longlegs. Longlegs caked it, but it's still here. You can definitely feel that Osgood Perkins type of anticipation and eeriness that he always brings. It's like waiting for that one shoe to drop. You know that saying to where when you're going in for surgery, it's that waiting that gets to you the most? That's how this felt. Plus the atmosphere, which helped build to it. I love that trend that Osgood Perkins does. May not be as much here as it was in Longlegs, but still, it was the right amount, and it was just enough to get you on the edge of your seat. It's still very much alive here, and it was still very powerful and impactful. You're going to hear a lot of comparison to Longlegs with this next segment I'm getting ready to mention, to where you have this backdrop that's very reminiscent of that film. That's very similar to where that film took place. The small, out-of-the-way countryside setting to where nobody else is around. There's hardly like no people, and you just have this very claustrophobic feel to where I wouldn't be surprised that when they scouted locations for this film, it was probably the same exact area that they filmed Longlegs in, the same area that Nicolas Cage walked down, the same street, the same everything, because it looked very reminiscent of that film. But that's a good thing, especially for a film like this, to where there's hardly nobody around, nobody can hear you scream. It's just that very claustrophobic feel and that very dark feel to it that really gets to you in a film like this. And I really did like that. That whole backdrop just added to that atmosphere, eerie level even more. And it just perfectly fit the setting and just the tone of this film. Again, it just adds to that eerie side of things. I did like the main character in Theo James. I thought he was great. I liked his performance. This makes the third film I've actually seen of him behind Underworld Awakening and Underworld Blood Wars. So basically the Underworld series. I know he was also in the Divergent series, but that's something that I've not seen in a long time. It's something that if I have seen, I just can't remember a thing about. But I thought he was good here. I liked the character arc that they built, especially with that beginning first act of him and his brother when they were kids. I thought he was written very well. I like the whole father-son dynamic to where the main character has his own son. I liked their chemistry with Theo James and Colin O'Brien. I thought it gave the film more of a human touch. Just that human connection that a film like this needs. I thought it was very well received, and it's one of those things that really helps you to really care for the characters. And the Carnage Candy, superb. Now, it's not Terrifier level. I always feel like I need to say that. It's not Terrifier level, but there's plenty here to satisfy that gorehound in you. The kills here was quite satisfying, and what really roped me in, I was going to see this movie anyway, but what really roped me in about the kills themselves is it felt very reminiscent of a Final Destination film, which is another franchise I absolutely adore. A lot of the kills in here was very reminiscent of those kills in those films. It was like a Final Destination film with a toy monkey in the background causing all this chaos. A lot of the people that dies in here is exactly how somebody would die in a Final Destination film. That bizarre, balls to the wall, off the chain, unnatural way a person can die, and that's what really intrigued me. Each kill was very reminiscent of those films while still reminding you it's a film of its own. It just had that extra ingredient that was plucked from those movies and sprinkled into this just a little bit. But I thought it was very cool. I thought that was very entertaining within itself, especially with the new Final Destination that we're getting this year, Final Destination Bloodlines. I think this film is kind of a good, kind of a leeway for that anyway. That's how I personally look at it. The film's message about life, as cynical as they go about it, I thought was pretty sound. The whole thing about how death is just a part of life and it's just one of the very many struggles that we go through here as human beings, I thought that was very sound. And I thought that was a great narrative to follow. Not to mention a good direction. Just the fact that this film reminds us that death is a part of life and that we're all going to die someday. And that's just the harsh reality of life itself. And I thought the film drove that home pretty well. It wasn't just death and carnage. The film actually had something to say, and it was something that's reminiscent of everyday life in real life. They acknowledged that in such a way that speaks the truth. And from a narrative standpoint, I thought that gave the film much more of a profound purpose. Like I said, it wasn't just bloody carnage, it wasn't just for the fun of it, even though there was fun moments to be had. The narrative spoke louder than the actions of this film. And that is something that I hardly ever feel in anything. Most of the movies that I watch, I am always enjoyed by them, I am always entertained by them. But to have a narrative that speaks truth, I think it speaks louder than words themselves. As much as I enjoyed this, as much fun as I had with this film wasn't without its issues. As I dive into my negatives, there's only two issues I had with this. One was the comedy. I felt like they pushed it a little bit too hard. I felt like it was a little bit too on the nose. And to be honest, I'm just about sick and tired about how they handle comedy, especially in horror films. I said this about Heart Eyes, but when you do comedy in a horror film, it's got to be balanced. It's got to have that tipping scale that's just balanced just enough. And here, I just felt like they pushed it way too hard. There were certain lines and dialogue that was said that was like, what? Okay, move on. What are you trying to say? Is this supposed to be funny? And it just felt like that throughout the whole entire film. Apparently, I was the only one that wasn't really laughing in the theater. There was others that was actually laughing at a lot of the jokes. And that's fine. If you enjoyed the jokes, then all power to you. But I just felt like there wasn't nothing there for me in terms of comedy. Now, Osgood Perkins admitted that the original script was much more serious from the studio themselves. But Osgood Perkins wanted a much more lighter comedic tone because we're dealing with a toy monkey. There's a side to that I kind of understand. This toy monkey, this drummer monkey that's causing all this chaos. On paper, that probably does sound a little silly, like it probably could be from a parody movie, like a Naked Gun movie or something. Bottom line, if you do comedy in a film, it's got to feel balanced. And here is more like that than this. The only one that I can honestly say that I felt like that they balanced all of that out really well with the comedy and the horror was Companion. Now, I know I didn't mention that in the review for that film, but because they balanced it out so well and it was written so well and they didn't feel like they needed to push anything, I guess that's the reason why I didn't mention it, but they really should have took lessons from that and learned from that and then applied it to films like Hard Eyes and The Monkey. I just felt like they need to take hard lessons from that film and actually apply it to others. That way it wouldn't come off as what it was, as what The Monkey was. But point being, the comedy for The Monkey did work for me, and I just wish it would have just stuck with that serious tone with the original script of whatever that was. But it is what it is. Didn't ruin it for me. Didn't take me out of the film. Just is what it is. I expected as much, so that's why I'm not as pissed off about it as I usually am. And last but not least, the third act reveal. I felt like once the film showed everybody's motivations, and once everybody's motivations and reasons were revealed, didn't really feel that satisfying. They tried to hit you with this grand scheme that wanted to hit you like a wrecking ball, and I'm not really sure if they intended this to be a big reveal. It's not like it was like a Saw-like twist or anything, but I felt like that they was trying for that, but there's so much aspects to it that was weak, and I just, when it was happening, I was thinking, is this really supposed to be that surprising at all? And is this really supposed to be like the main reasons why this is all happening? It was trying to come off as one of those twists, as one of those big reveals, but it just fell flat for me. I don't really understand what the film was trying to say. Like, a lot of the character motivations I understood, but I felt like there had to be something bigger there. I don't know. It's just, this is my own thing. But again, it's not something that took me out of it, but it's just something I wish would have been a little bit stronger in its presentation. I don't know. For those of you who have seen this already, without spoiling anything, do you think it was one of those grand schemes, one of those twists? Or do you think it was just something that they were just trying to put in as an excuse to why everything was happening? I don't know. What's your take on that? For those of you who've seen it without spoiling anything. All I know is it didn't hit me as hard as I'm sure it probably hit a lot of others. Was this the greatest thing that I've ever seen? No, not really. But it wasn't without its moments. I would say it's probably not as strong as Longlegs was, but it's close. Maybe a notch below, but close. But it's still a fun and entertaining little movie and a happy accident. Well, that's it for this one, guys. The Monkey. What was your thoughts on it? Have you seen it yet? What was your thoughts on it? Were you somebody who enjoyed this? Are you somebody who's enjoyed what Osgood Perkins brings to the table so far? Or was this not your cup of tea? Was this not for you whatsoever? Leave me a comment down below and give me your thoughts. Thank you so much, guys, for clicking and watching this. I really do appreciate it. Like, subscribe, comment, and share. Make sure to click that bell icon so you don't miss a thing. Now I'll see you on the next one. Peace.